Hello everyone, FBO Willem here. UEFA Champions League Fantasy Football is finally back for another season. As I have joined in for the last 3 seasons now, I've decided to record this season and take you guys with me for the journey. This season, 36 teams will join up to fight for the cup with the big ears, and for us it's not important who wins, but the gems you pick from each team to get the most points after the grand finale. Now, in fantasy football you often pick the players from the best teams, because that's often where the points will be farmed, i.e. Erling Haaland from Manchester City. This often means that you won't be choosing your players from quote-unquote lesser teams, but for a great guide I will link you guys a video in this description from a fellow YouTuber called FF Bobby, who takes you through the most important rules in the game. Now, to get us started, I've made a tier list with the best to worst teams. And just before we move on to the next slide, I want to point out that this is a list based on opinions, as it is subjective. And opinions can differ from person to person. And I also want to note that later in this video I will show you guys another tier list where I also take in their fixtures as well. And last, this is what I expect from fantasy returns and does not equal to what I expect from if they win or lose, although it probably isn't that far off. So, to finally move on to the list, at E I have put in some teams where I expect basically nothing from, and I won't be choosing any of the teams. So that means Slovan Bratislava, Sturm Graz, Sparta Prague, Red Star Belgrado and Brest. These are teams where I expect once again the lowest amount of returns, and I probably don't want to touch them. At D, there are some teams that can have potential with the right fixtures, but if the fixtures aren't great, they will most likely not be touched once again. It is not that these teams aren't good, but compared to the other teams above them, they are on the lesser side. Now, in Tier C, there are the most teams out of all. These teams are the teams that if they play each other, it will most likely be a toss-up, and home or away games will probably matter a lot in these fixtures. These teams are able to upset Tier B type of club, but there's also a chance that they can lose against a Tier D team. So it is, as I said, a toss-up, and it will be shown in the first few games where they are. In Tier B, it's the side where I expect that they will be scoring in every game and with the right fixtures to keep clean sheets as well. The point scorers are often easier to pick with these teams than the tiers below, with Griezmann from Atletico, Openda from Leipzig and even Hummels on Schlotterbeck with ball recoveries from Dortmund. In the Tier A matches, I've put in the teams where you might think that you could put them into Tier S. But into Tier S, I've put in teams I'm absolutely convinced that they are a step above these teams. I think the peak for most of these teams is close, but the consistency makes a difference for me at Tier S. And just to add on, I'm totally on the fence to put Liverpool in S, but with the new manager Arne Slot and just a few games in, I'm not totally convinced yet. Now that I've clarified myself, Tier A is a great option with goal scorers, clean sheets and man of the match potentials all around, and they are totally capable of upsetting a Tier S type of team. Barca are on a roll with Lewandowski, as is Liverpool with Salah. 2 great examples to have in your team. Now in Tier S, I don't think I really need to clarify my choices. Manchester City, Erling Haaland, defense is strong. I feel like every pick you can make there is a strong pick. With Real Madrid you have Mbappé, Carvajal, other great picks like Vinicius, so lots of choices. With Arsenal, impeccable defense with Gabriel and Saliba, and Bayern Munich with Musiala and Kane are easy choices to pick in your team. Now I quickly made well, not quickly actually, it took me quite a while, but I made a list with all the teams, all the 36 teams, with their fixtures in matchday 1 till matchday 8. And deciding on this list, I've made my own FTR, so that's my rating. On the top right you can see it's an easy, clean tab. If it's the most green and it's dark red, you want to avoid those teams. So that means teams like Red Bull Leipzig starting off with Juventus and Atletico Madrid and Liverpool, you will want to avoid those teams. If you want to look at it a bit more, just take a screenshot. If you guys really want it, I can link it to some kind of drive, but I recommend just taking a screenshot and try to pick out the best fixtures for your team. To quickly move on to the next segment, I have put in teams to avoid. These teams are simply going to struggle against every single team. This of course doesn't mean these teams are bad, but against the other teams I don't expect much, especially with the fantasy side on it as well. Only exception I can find is maybe a goalie for the saves, or if they have a first strong game and you want to transfer them out immediately. So this means Bologna, Sturm Graz, Slovan, Bratislava, Brest, Young Boys, Sparta Prague, Red Star Belgrado and Dinamo Zagreb. With most of them I have already called at the start of the video, but I've included some fixtures as well, and these are just completely teams you want to avoid. Now next up are teams that will have difficult games. There will be some teams between them where you think, well, they are actually quite good teams, why wouldn't I choose them? And I'm basing this on fixtures. So, showing you guys the teams I mean. AC Milan, Benfica, Lille, Leipzig, Celtic, Leverkusen, Club Brugge, PSV and Stuttgart. Now, some of these teams you will think, as I said, these are actually quite good teams, why wouldn't I choose them? As I said, the fixtures are important in fantasy football. So, Benfica, Milan, PSV, Leipzig, Leverkusen, they are all great clubs, but the fixtures they will have are a bit odd, or at least not that great. So as you can see below here, as I took a screenshot out of my sheet, they all have terrible start. If you can see, AC Milan has Liverpool to start off and Leverkusen with the second game, so that's often an avoid for that. By Leverkusen have Feyenoord away. If it was at home, it would have been better, but then AC Milan at home and Brest away. I think you can make something out of that as it's as AC Milan at home, but I would avoid it. Benfica has Atletico at home and Feyenoord at home, and then Bayern München away. His first game is an alright pick if you're gonna transfer him immediately out, but else I would avoid him. Celtic actually has a clean sheet for the first 4 games in the Scottish League, but yeah, that is the Scottish League. If you can see, second game against Borussia away, then at Atalanta away, and then Leipzig at home, and yeah, well, basically, if you can read the rest, it's just not the greatest fixtures you can have. Now, next up are okay teams with good fixtures. This means they are great teams, just not the greatest out of this Champions League pool with good fixtures in the first 5 games. So, these teams are Atalanta, who play Arsenal at home, which isn't the greatest, I know that. Shakhtar away, Celtic at home, Stuttgart away, and Young Boys at home. So, as I said, the fixture is perfect, except for Arsenal, as at least it's at home. But after that, the streak is great, with players like Lukman and Retigui, hope I pronounced his name right. In the attacking department, they will have great opportunities to get some goals and assists against these fixtures. They're also using attacking backs, so Zappacosta is also a great pick. Next up is Monaco. Monaco has the following 5 fixtures. Barcelona at home, once again a difficult first fixture, but after that it's Dinamo Zagreb away, Red Star at home, Bologna away and Benfica at home. As I said, once again a difficult first game, but after that 4 good games with some great opportunities, and with a player like Balogun who was top scorer of Ligue 1 in 2022-2023, there is big potential. And last but not least, it's Red Bull Salzburg. Now, I don't have Red Bull Salzburg all too high, but I expect Salzburg to get some returns, at least in the first 3 games. Maybe the 4th and the 5th is a bit difficult. But the games are Sparta Prague away, Brest at home, Dinamo Zagreb away, Dinamo Zagreb at home, and then Leverkusen and Feyenoord away. Now, as I said, first 3 games against the teams that clawed their way into the Champions League with the playoffs, I expect Salzburg can put in some goals. And if I trust them defensively, I'm not sure about that, they can have some clean sheets. Even against teams like Feyenoord and Leverkusen, there are also chances for goals, as the season has showed so far that Feyenoord and Leverkusen aren't the strongest defensively. So, these are the okay teams with good fixtures. Now, next up are the good teams with good fixtures. Those are mainly the fixtures, the teams you want to pick from. But just to get quickly back to this slide, okay teams with good fixtures, I pointed them out because you always need some cheap players to get, well, to the 100 million. If you only pick players from good teams, you will get easily over that 100 million mark. So let's now move on to good teams with good fixtures. Let's pick teams from a higher level than the last teams with great fixtures as well. Here are my 3 favorites. It starts with Borussia Dortmund. They play Club Brugge away, Celtic at home, Real Madrid away, Sturm Graz at home, Dynamo Kiev away. Now once again, I know there's one bad fixture, but there is just gonna be a difficult fixture every time. But 4 out of 5 games are great. And now where the goals come from is a bit difficult to predict. But with the Brighton player Pascal Gross, who has lots of assists in him, and a penalty taker in Emre Can, who is actually a defender in the game, there are points on the table. Dortmund is also defensively strong with players like Slotterbeck and the goalkeeper Kobel. Up next is Juventus. They start with PSV at home. Now PSV does score a lot of goals, so it maybe not defensively the best pick for Juventus. Then Leipzig away, Stuttgart at home, Lille away and Aston Villa away. Maybe not the strongest fixtures you could get, but there's not a top S or A tier in the schedule for Juventus. This means potential for a lot of goals, and a player like Vlahovic, there most certainly will be some goals for him. Now all these teams, as I said, have potential to nick a goal against Juventus, but I think with the attacking threat of Juventus, there will be a lot of points for grabs. Now, last but not least, it's Barcelona. They play against Monaco away, Young Boys at home, Bayern Munich at home, Red Star away, and ending it off with Brest at the Camp Nou. With attacking threats with Lewandowski, Yamal, Rafinha and Olmo, there are loads of potentials for goals and assists. It might be a headache to choose who though. Maybe you can see with the amount of money you have to spend, you can easily choose which player instead of choosing the most pricey one, as it is probably Lewandowski. You can choose Olmo. Defensively with the ball recovery magnet Koundé, there's also a lot of chance for big points. Now I wanted to give one team a separate segment, and that's not because they're the best team in the world, but they are the best team in the world with the best fixtures in this schedule, and that's Manchester City. As I said, I wanted to have their own segment for the reason that they have extremely dominant teams against every single team, and with the teams shown on the list, it's going to be a goal fest. Now I'm not going to say that Erling Haaland is essential, that's because nobody is essential, but not picking him against these fixtures is only for the brave or for the stupid. I also do want to point out that Manchester City has an extremely busy schedule, so there is going to be a lot of rotation, what is going to cause you a headache, especially in the defense. You never know when Lewis is going to play instead of Walker, or Ake will step up for Gvardiol. Now to end it off, I wanted to show you guys my tier list, my second tier list to be exact. It will be mixed with fixtures, so this means how good the team is and how well the fixtures are. I recommend choosing players from tier S, A or B, and maybe some from C, but below I wouldn't choose, only if you pick them for one game and you want to transfer them out immediately. Now, it is a bit lonely in the top for City, but with those fixtures and that singular goal machine in their team, it's a no-brainer. So having no Manchester City asset in your team, you will probably struggle. As there is a limit to your squad value, in the first few fixtures, Salzburg, Atalanta and Monaco might be able to get you some cheaper players in that will grab some points. Now, teams like Arsenal, Bayern Munich, Inter and PSG will also have some great history in the Champions League, and they will probably most likely will put in a lot of goals. I just think it will be less frequent than the teams above, especially if you take the price from the players, as Saka is, for example, 9 million and Yamal from Barcelona is 7.5 million. Now to end this video off, I just want to say to you guys, once again, this is a subjective list. In the avoid scenario, you see some teams, maybe your team, where you think, well, they have probably a solid chance. I'm just basing off their fixtures. There's a big chance they can win the games they have, but to have the most optimal games and fixtures and, well, quality in their team, as Barcelona has a lot of quality and great fixtures, I put them ahead of, for an example, a PSG or Bayern Munich or an Arsenal, just because of the fixtures. I think if it's Arsenal-Barcelona, it will be a really close match, and I even think Arsenal will top it. But I think the fixtures are in Barcelona's hands, at least the better fixtures. So, I hope you guys enjoyed this. I will make another video with the players I will pick. Please don't copy that, because that's my team. No, feel free to copy it. And I hope you guys enjoyed this video. Please subscribe to the channel. Follow me on X with FBL Willem. And I'll talk to you guys later. Bye bye.